Welcome to the Weekly Governance Voice. This is a program brought to you courtesy of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, powered by Bafunde. I am your host, Obare Nyaega. This morning, we shall be talking about the issue of professionalism within Kenya and the region at large. With us on studio is Felix Okatch to talk to us about this very important topic. I will speak briefly about Mr. Felix Okatch, who is currently the chairman of Association of Professional Societies in East Africa, what we call APSEA. Okatch has done many things in his life. He's served many boards. He's a member of IOD, a member of KIM. He has published many articles in governance and finance. He has published a book, Marketing Management, Integrated Perspective, and also is an academia currently pursuing his PhD at Kwea. Welcome to studio, Mr. Felix.
Thank you very much for welcoming me to the studio.
All right.
Mr. Obare.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. And maybe, Mr. Okatch, we can begin off by talking about APSEA, where you are the chair. And maybe people who may not know about APSEA. What is APSEA and what's your mandate?
Thank you very much on that question, on what APSEA is, the mandate, and what people want to know about APSEA. APSEA stands for Association of Professional Societies in East Africa. It was established in 1961. That's over 60 years ago. Most of us were not around when it started. Now, APSEA, when it started, it's mainly an umbrella body for professional associations. Those days, the associations were fewer, professions were few. We're talking of law, engineering, medicine, and a few others. And also, the time it started, Kenya was not independent. Tanzania was, and Uganda was got with the next year, subsequent year. So that time, the associations were for all East African countries. There was the Kenya chapter, Tanzania chapter, and Uganda chapter. After independence, changes started taking place, so that the Kenyan chapter continued growing on its own, but focusing still on East Africa. And of course, in our mandate, we are concerned with the professional discourse to the people, professionals like law, engineering, geology, veterinary science, medicine, veterinary side of it, medicine, accounting, and the whole lot. So those are the areas in which we are presently involved.
All right.
Yes.
So you are basically an umbrella body for all professionals in the country and the region.
Yes.
Okay.
And then when you're talking of professionals, you're talking of professional member associations.
Okay.
Because currently there are 32 member associations who are affiliated to APSEA, from alphabetically from architecture, engineering, medicine, I've mentioned, geology, and Institute of Certified Accountants, investment, the whole lot, about 32 professional bodies who are our members. And of course, when I talk of profession, Mr. Nyaga, is that a profession is normally a training, because it's good to define what it is initially. It's somebody who has gone through a training, through certification by a registered body, and it does certain exams, and there are certain standards it pursues. For example, if I just look at accounting perspective only, is that there's training on accounting standards, there's examination, and also certification, and also ensuring that codes of ethics are being followed by the individual member in that institution.
Okay.
And that happens across board in all the associations. Even kept engineering, the same thing is engineering. If you come to law, it's the same thing in law.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe you could tell us how you've supported or promoted professionalism within Kenya over time.
Thank you very much on that question about promoting professionalism in Kenya. For information, the APSEA is to advance aspect of professionalism. In course of advancement, it means that you encourage members to register persons who are qualified to be members. That's one. Two, make sure you run them through and they deliver the services expected professionally from their standpoint of view. Going forward also, there's aspects of legislation. Make sure that certain legislations, rules and codes are followed by those members. Now for us, APSEA, to make sure it's followed, is that these 30 corporate members, we ensure that every association who is a member of APSEA has got set those codes I've mentioned. They got list of members, they got requirements of members, and also continuous education requirement. Okay. To give an example of continuous education requirement, let me take example of medicine. There were days when if you are sick, doctors would write prescription in language, in sentence which you could not read. You know, you also wonder what it is. Yes. But technology has changed. Now they're doing it through computer, which means the doctor must be computer literate and draft it as expected. Do you understand? All right. Same thing comes to drawing. The old days when engineering, they had to draw on a table. But now with modern technology, it's drawn and can see 3 dimensions in a computer chart, and then they decide what to do. So those are changes which have come up. And APSEA, we're trying to make sure that members live up to those changes for the benefit of the society. Because we're serving society at large. Okay. Yes.
So I am aware that APSEA has been involved in the legal reforms. Maybe you could tell us more about that involvement.
When Constitution of Kenya was being debated, it was 2010. APSEA was very much involved in preparation of background papers and discussions. In the course of that, we ensured that an aspect of umbrella body for professional societies was included in the Constitution. The purpose was that when you included that aspect of professionalism in the Constitution, it means that going forward, certain acts of parliament from the Constitution will involve APSEA. And that kind of involvement has come to a level where that now even state officers, public officers, we always participate in the body for vetting. And in vetting, we a guide on what's required for a candidate. Things like his name, his tax status, his ability to, is a member of professional society, is a member in good standing. All that is now mandatory for somebody when he's applying for those jobs. And APSA played that role as far as the Constitution is concerned. And those recommendations of APSA, we made sure they were crossed in the commissions. So when the Constitution was being done and debated, there's the acts. But then there are certain commissions which support the act, independent commissions. So APSA has participated a lot in those independent commissions. Most cases in terms of vetting and also making recommendations of who to be in those commissions.
So apart from the Constitution, are you involved to date in another legal instruments, or that is where you stopped?
The legal instruments which are involved are very many. The many bills which come to Parliament, and most of them concern members and the public. There are some bills on management. There are some bills on veterinary sciences. There are some bills even on medicine, on medical practitioners. A lot is coming up. We've got a department, a committee in APSA called Public Affairs Committee, which tracks all the bills. And when the bills are brought in Parliament, we get them and get to our members to interrogate them and who have input in those bills. What the challenge we've had in those bills are 2 things here. Is that normally when we've debated a bill and goes to Parliament, occasionally the Parliament voting pattern is not on the content of the bill. Sometimes they'll vote according to party lines, and that can cause a challenge. But what's important is that the professionals are involved in it and we make sure the public know what's happening. Yeah.
There has been a concern about the issue of the cost of doing business for professionals, especially in the counties, and the issue of licensing. And it's been a very painful process for some of them, whereby they are forced to pay for many licenses at various counties. How are you supporting these professionals to ensure that then this issue of single license can be actualized?
That single licensing has been a challenge, a thorn in the flesh. You get a professional, his parent body, he has paid license to his parent body. Then when he goes to the country where he's operating, he has to pay a license. Sometimes he's got branches many counties, even 40 counties, and he has to pay licenses in all those where he's operating. And that has been expensive to the professionals. And if it's not addressed, the professional will now charge more money to cover for their fees, and that's not good. On the other hand, the counties also need revenue. So they insist on making sure that those charges are put in place. But going forward, we'll talk with the counties and see how the aspect of fees can be reduced for the benefit of the Wananchi and also the professionals. Yes.
I hope that will be a very good thing for the professionals as well. Then there's been also a concern by the public about the issue of professionals charging minimum fee. You'll hear of the elimination order for the lawyers. We hear of fees for engineers. And this has been a big concern for the public. How is APSEA ensuring there's a balance between what is being charged by the professionals and also in the public in general?
I'll start from the perspective that education is expensive. Somebody who was trained as a lawyer, a doctor, engineer, there's a lot of investment in that individual. So their body, when they've realized that out of that investment, this is a normal fee which should be charged per region, they make recommendations of minimum charges. Now, the public also needs fees to be lower. But if you make it too low, it might compromise the quality of services. Because if, say, I'm an engineer, and then the fees are too low, now instead of giving proper recommendations for a job to be done, I'll just take little amount of money because you are too many to cover what I needed. At the end of the day, the job is shoddy. So the fees, the recommendations by professionals normally is the minimum requirement. But some places they would charge more depending where the professional is or less. For example, if you go to only one doctor in a set place like Turkana, there's only doctor in charge of pathology or gyno. Of course, he can charge a fortune. But based on certain ethics required, normally they would charge a fair rate to the public here.
Right.
Yeah.
So you feel that as APSEA, we still need to continue the issue of regulating the fee for professionals, because you are saying if it's too low, it could be a problem.
What the professionals do, they give advice. Minimum charge would be so much. But on the ground, actually the charges are not that expensive, because sometimes legal fees, there will be a recommendation. But if you get the actual fees charged, sometimes it's lower, because depending where the professionals are, they also compete among themselves. And then they could be a bit lower in terms of fees charged. But you can't do much on that, because as I told you, education is expensive.
So are you saying that we should charge more so we can get better quality?
Charge what is reasonable enough. So that, say, if the charge is a given amount, a doctor would say, okay, this is what I'm charging, and show the customer this is the fees, because it's important to share that knowledge with the client, that this is the fees recommended, but in your case, I'll give you this kind of discount. Or the way things are, I'll charge what is expected of me. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I'm still on this issue of the fees being charged. How will it then affect probably the development of the country? Because sometimes it might stifle development if we consistently say that we are going to have this fee charged. Is that your view, or is it's not necessarily the case?
You see, normally if you say left that price to be open to market forces, like in the country, see now there's the price of crude of oil petrol is regulated.
Yes, it is.
But if you left it free or without regulations, the professionals, a professional service provider, depending where he is, if he's alone, he would charge a lot of money to the detriment of the public. That's one. But if you regulate, give a certain guideline, it might make him charge lower or within that range. And two, this guideline, the information should be shared with the person being served. So that knows that for this kind of legal practice, legal case, this is what is charged. For this kind of medical services, this is what is charged.
All right.
Yeah.
I know also that APSEA has been involved in the issue around professional code of conduct. Why is it necessary for you to be involved in this conduct or encourage them to be in place?
A professional is somebody who has been trained in a given line. That individual, the person who can discipline him is somebody in his line. For example, a doctor, if a doctor makes a mistake, it's his fellow doctor who would know that he did not do proper diagnosis. So the fellow in the line is the one who would discipline him. So the associations must have, and they do have, codes of conduct and the way of disciplining their members. If customer complains about a lawyer, there's a legal counsel, which the disciplinary wing of the LSK, which would discipline the lawyer. The same thing happens with medicine. So it's the members themselves who discipline those members, and that is very important as far as code of conduct is concerned.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So there's a big, of course, a big debate around professional negligence. We've had people complaining about collapsed buildings. We've had people talking about poor road drainage. We've had people talk about wrong surgeries, cooked books. And the question would be, are these accusations real? And if they are real, what's APSEA doing about them?
Let me start by showing that a professional person who has been trained conducting a service takes a risk of many things he's doing. For example, a doctor, there's a risk of poor diagnosis. The doctor, is a very important person because in life, it's the doctor who determines whether they are born or dead. So when he makes a mistake, it's a risk on his side. So that's a risk to the individual professionals. Now, when you come to the public also, they'll say, all right, fine. Sometimes you are negligent in building. A building is being done or a bridge. But then it was not looked at properly. Or the fellow who did it did not look at the documents as required. If it's a real engineer, he will bear the risk and discipline. But in most cases, there are others who are quacks, who would pretend the engineers are not engineers. They would come with fake papers. The local authorities, some places, the local authorities collude with a few individuals. Then they pass the plans and buildings moving out at a faster speed between the contractor, the fake engineer and the whole lot. At the end of the day, the building collapses. So those are challenges we have in our country. And of course, corruption will come in. But those are external problems, environmental problems which affect the professionals. But we have to live with them. What's important is that to make sure we follow the right procedure as expected.
So I still want to hear something that APSEA will do to support some of these things, or what efforts you're putting to ensure we don't have these kind of things in the market.
What you are doing is that members must have the fellows registered, those who are members of that association. B, they must have code of codes which they follow. 3, there must be disciplinary procedure where it's not done. There are certain places where the licensing is required. If, say, you are a pharmacist, you must have a proper license displayed. And the customers, fellows being served, please ask for those facilities. See if there's a license has not expired, the person is qualified before you treat it. And if you find it's not proper, please, for heaven's sake, inform us, APSEA, then we take it up with the respective association concerned. APSEA is an umbrella body for all, the doctors, engineers, architects, accountants. So a complaint coming to us, we will address it to the right association.
So how will we have the public learn about the professionals and the quacks?
Thank you very much. The professionals, for example, a lawyer who is operating, he's got a practicing license, should be displayed. A medical doctor has got his, engineer has got his. So the public should make sure that if this fellow does not have those required standards, don't give him the job. Should he be awarded a job, report him to the right authorities required. 2, also, the government officers who are giving tenders, make sure that all those documentation is in place. Of late, these days, requirements are things like tax returns, annual account returns. All those documentations are required before somebody is given a job. So ask the public to be alert and report it. Yes.
So is there a recourse? Is there a legal recourse? Because apart from me going to somebody and getting services, is there a recourse for me who comes and gets a poor service from a professional, be it legal or otherwise? And is there something that APSEA could support?
The recourse is there. If a lawyer does not give you service as expected, you have a right to report to the LSK through legal counsel. If a doctor does not give treatment as you expected, there's a Kenya Medical Association, you report it and speak from there. And of course, APSEA, as an umbrella body, we assist our member stations, our public, to make sure that member stations meet those standards as required. And the problems are many, from veterinary services, from banking, from investment, the whole lot are there. But we make sure that when the public tell us, we pick it up with the individual associations. And
maybe this is something you need to respond to us. There has been a view that when we give professionals leadership positions, they are able to perform and do better. And what we are seeing of late is that we're actually seeing also professionals who are in leadership, but those firms they are in are also not performing as well. So how are we going to help to ensure that these professionals who are given leadership positions are able to perform to the expectation of the public. We've actually had professionals taking leadership positions, political positions, taking care of corporates, but still those corporates don't perform as well. As APSEA, what will be your view on supporting those professionals?
Those professionals who don't perform well, it's important that they get punished or reprimanded. Performance also depends on the individual. It could be good in academic work, good in papers, but on the ground, it misses the direction. Also, note that a professional is not operating in an empty environment. Say is a lawyer and is operating near his home or elected member of parliament. He goes to his ethnic group. Over time, he thinks in terms of ethnic line rather than the professional line.
All right.
Yeah.
So as we wind down, probably you could give us a comment on how APSEA works with government to ensure that the policies of government are also actualized through the professionals.
The policies of government, let me take the four agenda items. First, in medical, it's important that as professionals, we charge fees that's normal, fair, and also take part in informing the public of medical requirements. Like now with the COVID coming in place, the doctors are explaining this at certain forum, or need to go for vaccination or need to keep social distance. So they do that. Legal also comes in. The elections are in place now. It's important to tell people follow the law. This was expected of you. Read the regulations as expected as the country goes forward towards the next election. So APSEA is ensuring that all the professionals get involved in activities of the country. So I've mentioned the agenda item 4, medical. Then of course in the building industry, of course the built industry, make sure that the construction work is done well. In terms of agriculture, we have to make sure that those in the agriculture sector, veterinary services and the others, make sure that actually when fertilizers come, the right fertilizer, advise farmers of how to use the right crop at what season. Those advices come in to assist the agenda for the government. Right. Because at the end of the day, when the individuals do well in that line, the professionals also do well, because that's what the professional will get the fees. Yes.
We are entering into one of those sensitive times or important times in our calendar of life. That's the election coming next year. As APSEA, what role are you going to play to ensure that, there's fair, people are given civic education, and your professionals also support that process?
That question is preempting what we have in place now.
Okay.
We intend to, by early next year, to have a webinar of all professionals who are going to stand for elections. In that webinar, we will call those prospective candidates and those professionals who are already elected. Then in that webinar, we'll see what role should we play. Much of it is informing the public of their rights, informing them who to vote for, showing them the need to vote for objective candidate persons, not vote along ethnic line or narrow party lines. Because at the end of the day, as they say, if you vote for a bad leader, you're the losing problem. And also, if you do not vote, you're still you've made a mistake. So it's important for us professionals to, and we hope to, make sure that we inform the public, participate in the preparations of election, and sensitize our people on civic education and also normal voting, civic education, and also county matters as expected by law. Because as professional people expect a lot from us. And when you are in a given place, it's us to talk. And for us to talk is that we know what people need. For example, you go to a rural place and you're the only professional there, a lawyer or a doctor, engineer. Don't say that I'm only a doctor, I don't know what's happening. Read what's required, inform the people, sensitize them. You are the salt of the earth in that neighborhood because of your education. And that's what we expect members of APSEA to follow. And when I say members of APSEA, I mean the 32 professional, 32 corporate members, and the other 500,000 individual members. For your information, the individual members in APSEA are over 500,000.
Wow.
Because take a case like ISPAC alone has got about 30,000. Take LSK, big number. Put all that together, is a big force, and we can change this country for better. Yes.
Do you want to organize further debate? As APSEA?
To do what?
Do a presidential debate.
We might. Oh yeah, we need, because depending on how they plan it,
Okay.
because an aspect of professionals will come in,
Mm-hmm.
and we can either host it or play part in presenting a few papers,
Mm-hmm.
or participating in asking questions
Okay.
when it comes up. But we'll encourage also the debates at the county level for the governors, senators, and members of parliament, including MCS.
All right.
Yes.
So what do you see as the future of APSEA as the chairman?
As the chairman, I see the future of APSA in three fronts.
Mm-hmm.
One, we make sure we sensitize the country on professionalism going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Two, make sure that the standards, which are for the benefit of the Mwananchi, are followed. And to following that is that we'll take part in legislative processes, because professional services are guarded by regulations.
Mm-hmm.
In trade, in terms of case of goods you trade because of taxes. But in professional services is the regulations. So we'll make sure that the regulations which come in place, from the ones we talked about, bills in Parliament, Competition Authority Act, County Acts, all those part of legislation. So professional services will make sure we participate in legislation way forward, and in as far as this country is concerned. And all the whole build our country is this is our country, and protect what we have, because we don't have any country other than here.
All right, Chairman.
Yeah.
I'll require you to face that camera and just speak to us and give us advice, give us words of wisdom, and talk to the professionals out there. What will you tell the professionals out there as our chair?
The professionals out there, my advice is that please get involved wherever you are. In your training, you are a qualified person. You are the qualified doctor, you are the qualified engineer, you are the qualified surveyor, you are the qualified person in food science, many other things. Please be like the salt of earth wherever you are. Set good examples, sensitize the public of what they need to do, and let us get involved in what's happening in this country. And ensure that all regulations which are being debated at county level, at Senate level, and even national government get involved and give the right advice to the Kenyans. The Kenyans are looking towards us as professionals.
Maybe I could allow you to, since we are approaching Christmas period, you could also pass your wishes and a goodwill message at this particular season.
To my fellow professionals, members of the public, leaders, and all concerned, I'll take this opportunity to wish you a Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2022. Thank you very much, and God bless you all.
That was Felix Okatch, the chairman of APSEA, talking to us about professionalism in Kenya. That was the weekly Governance Voice, brought to you courtesy of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, powered by Bafunde. I am your host, Obare Nyaega. Until next week, see you.